This is the Tigers Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Detroit Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What a complete and total disaster. Woof. A series split with the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago White Sox. All right, I'll dial it back a little bit. But I am a little bit perturbed and upset with the way that game ended. We'll talk about it on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. Welcome in. As always, I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. The Tigers lose to the Chicago White Sox 3-2. White Sox walk it off. The Southsiders end up splitting the series with the Tigers. Detroit heading back home. We'll talk about how bad of a loss it was, my Casey Mize concern, and AJ Hinch continues to pinch hit Andy Ibanez. Why? Make it stop. We'll get into that. Of course, I'll have my biggest takeaway and our turning point, as well as our player of the game. As always, thanks so much for making Locked On Tigers postcast your post-game destination, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. Thanks so much for liking and subscribing, and don't forget to check out Locked On Tigers. You got a good combo here. You got the post-game reaction show with me, Jake Riepma. You got the daily deep dive with Scott Bentley on Locked On Tigers, and together we are the Locked On Tigers community. And as always, your comments are welcome. So fire up that comment box and let's get into it. Buckle up. As always, we start with my biggest talking point and my biggest takeaway from this one. There's a couple of them, but it all boils down to a series split against a really bad baseball team as the best team in Major League Baseball. And it can be one thing or another of why the Tigers lost 2 games to the Chicago White Sox. And of course, there was some good and so on and so forth. I thought they were fortunate to only give up 2 runs in Casey Mize start. But at the end of the day, you split a series with the Chicago White Sox. And that is my biggest takeaway.
This is what you'll be talking about.
You didn't get the type of breakthrough performances or the big hit or the big out, so on and so forth. And all of it kind of, it all kind of snowballed this afternoon in such a frustrating game in which you've got a Chicago White Sox team that's just able to pull it out in the bottom of the the bottom of the 10th in extra innings with the bunting to move the runners over. That was something the Tigers had an opportunity to do in the top of the 10th inning with runners at first and second. They didn't do it. And you see a White Sox team that makes the plays late that matter the most to get the win. So listen, 4-3 road trip, 2 of 3 from Kansas City was nice, but to go 2-2 against the Chicago White Sox is just, I don't know how many more times I can say it. Obviously, I'm not thinking clear enough and articulating very well on this live Locked On Tigers postcast because I'm upset. But let's get into Casey Mize's start today and a couple of the other notes that I made while watching this afternoon baseball game from Comiskey Park. Just kidding, not Comiskey Park anymore. Hasn't been that for years. It was Guaranteed Rate Field, and now I think it's the rate. But Casey Mize at one point had thrown 200 pitches without a swing and miss. Okay, it wasn't that bad, but obviously the amount of pitches he threw early in this game, it looked like the Casey Mize of old, the Casey Mize that struggled to fool hitters. I mean, 93 pitches over the course of 4 2. I believe he had 62 pitches through the first 2 innings. That's not, everybody knows, that's not a recipe for success at the major league level, especially when you're trying to establish yourself as a bona fide starter in this league and has done so much to get back to that. And so that's where today's outing, very, very disappointing for Casey Mize. Now, the bullpen, give them a lot of credit. Everybody from Herder, Hannafy, Canely. I know Brisky gets the tough luck loss there in the 9th and didn't necessarily locate pitches as well, but Canely gets the impressive double play. There was the double play that was turned in the top of the 6th in the 4-6-3 fashion with Gleyber Torres. So I thought the defense was good today. And you know what? Maybe as I work my way through this, and this is what I love about a live show, because here we are about 5 minutes in, and I'm talking myself off the ledge a little bit. So yeah, it's a bad loss. Yeah, it's a bad series split, but maybe the sky isn't falling after all. What say you? Let's get into those comments. As always, appreciate your participation in our post-game show here on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. Day baseball, wrapping up the 7-game road trip. We begin with Jimmy Card Collector with runners on first and second. Hinch chose not to bunt. White Sox in the exact same situation in their 10th and bunt, and they win. Yep, I mentioned that, and I hadn't seen that comment before I mentioned that, but Jimmy, we are right on the same page. Ethan Kingsley says a lot of changes need to be made. Ibanez has got to go. Brisky, got to go. Perez can no longer switch hit. Rogers, got to go. Sweeney needs to get sent down. That is a lot of changes, Ethan, and I appreciate the thought you're putting into the comment because there's a lot of layers there. I mentioned in the open and more on the Andy Ibanez stuff, but that's what I'll start with. I mean, I circle that in red ink and see you later, Andy Ibanez. And my good buddy Tony Garcia from the Detroit Free Press tweeted this out. I want to give him credit that we'll forever be grateful for Andy Ibanez RBI double in Houston in the postseason last year. But unfortunately, it's what have you done for me lately? And see ya later. Got to go. Brisky, I think, is a work in progress, but I think Brisky is kind of emblematic of where this Tigers bullpen is right now, where it's very top heavy. And the guys that all of a sudden have looked like mediocre or middle of the pack type relievers, he's kind of on that list, whether it be Holton, whether it be Hannafy, whether it be Brisky. You know, we talked about that at length in the last couple of shows that based on the way the season is playing out, I fully anticipate the Tigers being buyers at the deadline and buying a bullpen arm to help add to the depth of the bullpen, because right now it's just so top heavy with Canley and Vest at the top of the bullpen and kind of a lot of other mediocre guys. All right. We've got Thomas Rotondi up next. Why does AJ never bunt? Drives me nuts. Yeah, listen, and I have been one to, I don't want to say give AJ Hinch the benefit of the doubt, because if you've watched this show once, you might have heard me allude to some of the times in the Tigers clubhouse where, you know, the days were tough being a Tigers fan, being a Tigers supporter, and AJ Hinch got asked a lot of tough questions. And, you know, as a competitor, he was pretty feisty a lot of times in the way that he answered it. And I think in my previous position, if I'm being honest, with 97 won the ticket, you kind of get lumped into, oh, this guy's from 97 won the ticket, he must be negative, because that's just the way it's okay. I understand it's part of the business. But that being said, I thought AJ Hinch got outmanaged today. And I didn't love pinch hitting for Kerry Carpenter. Again, I didn't love it the other day when he did it early enough in the game in the 6th inning. And both times I understand the splits with Andy Ibanez, but that was the old Andy Ibanez. That's not the current Andy Ibanez. He's not mashing against lefties anymore. The dude says the entire lineup is guilty of leaving ducks on the pond. You are not wrong about that. The dude offensively, left on base 9 guys today, and with runners in scoring position, just 1 for 6. And yeah, some concern. There's absolutely some concern to maintain the level of success that this Tigers team has had. All right. Who we have? Thomas Rotondi says AJ has a love affair with Ibanez. I don't disagree. Sean Gray agreeing with me, need to quit pinch hitting for Carpenter. It's not worked at all this year. I'm with you. And if I'm Kerry Carpenter, it's only human nature to get frustrated if you're getting pinch hit for, and the person that's using your at bat, that they're taking the bat out of your hand for, isn't successful. And it's happening repeatedly. So I completely agree, in which that's got to be, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Enough of a sample size. We understand. All right. Alex Lopez, we cannot consider ourselves a serious team with both Ibanez and Sweeney on this team. Yeah, that's why I'm in for a big time move to bring Bo Bichette here. And listen, hand up, I'll be the first to admit I wasn't all in on the Scott Harris hire. And then additionally, the initial vision that it seemed like he was trying to manage or run this team like a small market team, but it's obviously worked out. best record in baseball. I have to tip my cap to Scott Harris. I have repeatedly, but at the same time, this is going to be a trade deadline that makes or breaks Scott Harris. And I want to see him and the rest of that front office make a push to make this team, take them from good to great, and give this city an opportunity to be excited about a playoff run and eventually getting to the World Series and ultimately winning it, because I think we can all agree that's where we're at. Comments are great, and I apologize. I can't keep up. I want to give adequate responses, and we are running out of time. That's what they do here on the post-game show, if we're being honest. It's been a very honest show, but don't worry. We've got our player of the game. We've got our turning point, and I'll try to read a few more of these comments. Don't go anywhere. It's the Locked On Tigers postcast. This episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast, right here on the Locked On Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right, America's number one sports book is FanDuel. And we love FanDuel right here on the Locked On Tigers postcast, because FanDuel adds a little sizzle to the viewing experience. In the NBA playoffs, yep, that's right. Not only are they in full swing, how about a little updated copy? The NBA Finals are here, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never, ever been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live, with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Another day, another parlay. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you've got a read on who's heating up, what do we got? We've got the Thunder versus the Pacers, a couple of small markets. Oh no, is anybody going to watch? That's the narrative around the NBA Finals. Well, how about you get in on the action with FanDuel? It doesn't matter how big the size of the market is. It doesn't matter who's in the finals. You can still win big. Back it up with a same game parlay. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And that is what you call a live show, my friends, a live solo produced live postcast show. Sometimes you see how the sausage is made. So my apologies on that one. But all right, Tigers lose to the Chicago White Sox, split the series with the Southsiders, and now they head home to play the other Chicago team, the much better Chicago team this year, the Chicago Cubs. Great matchup on Friday, which we'll dive into in a little bit, but right now it's time for the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
A lot of different ones I can point to on this one. Torque gave it a ride with runners with two men on, and an opportunity to try to break that one open in the ninth. Didn't work out. Or I beg your pardon. I believe that was in the eighth. Let me get my play-by-play in front of me, because this old brain of mine, you know what? Sometimes you lose a little bit of bandwidth. But the way that ball left the bat, I really thought that that was going to be an opportunity for some big-time extra bases. But unfortunately, it was not. So I also think the base running blunder that we need to talk about with Colt Keith. Yes, it's an RBI for Dillon Dingler, and it was another lawn dart, and just perfectly placed ball. Zach McKinstry scores, but Colt Keith just runs you out of the inning, and you're wondering, you can't make those type of little league mistakes. And maybe it was just a case of getting caught between bases, but you got to have better base running instincts than that. Because that inning, when runs are at a premium, I'll take my chances with the next guy up and two men on and still two out, as opposed to just giving yourself up. And I know he got caught in the rundown and so on and so forth, but that was I wrote that down as a turning point if the Tigers don't score again, and they didn't. So there you have it. Let's get into our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
I'd love to choose a Tiger for this one, but you just can't, because the way that the Tigers team played in this one doesn't warrant a Tigers player of the game. Chase Meardroth, on the other hand, I mean, the Tigers just couldn't get him out. It was insane. And they couldn't get him out all series. 2 more hits today and 3 walks. He's 2 for 2 and on base 5 times. So there you have it. He also had just his way with Tiger pitching all afternoon. Couple of hits all the way around too for the White Sox and Sean Burke. I mean, give him credit. He pitches 7 innings, allows just 2 earned runs, 7 hits, and kind of had his way with the Tigers as well. So unfortunate the way this one ended, but big game tomorrow, big series back at Comerica Park, Tigers and Cubs. Obviously, you got Tarik Skubal on the mound for the Detroit Tigers in that one. And anytime the lefty's going for the Tigers, it's you give yourself a great chance to win. And with the bitter taste that's in your mouth after splitting a 4-game series with the Chicago White Sox, you'll certainly take a welcome sight of Tarik Skubal on the mound for that one. So looking forward to that. Nice little homestand after the or not a homestand, I'm sorry, just the 3 games over the weekend and then to Baltimore. So we've talked about areas in the schedule to stockpile wins. Baltimore coming up is nice as well. But hey, if it's like the White Sox, maybe we'll just split to each their own there. But all right, a lot of comments here, and I apologize. I just lost track of all the comments, and we got R1 VJ4 defending Colt Keith for the base running blunder. I actually, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because there was the replay that they showed in panning over Cora at the third base coach waving him. So you're not wrong with that. And, you know, it's my instinct to blame the player, but I will at least acknowledge that I did see that replay where he's waving him around. So I appreciate that that comment from R1 VJ4. And that's what the comments are for. We appreciate that. Appreciate everybody tuning in this series. Kind of a weird series all the way around. You expected more from the Tigers, and they didn't necessarily deliver. Hopefully the weekend will bring about some more excitement with the big matchup between the Chicago Cubs. Friday night game, I believe, is on Apple TV. So I don't necessarily love when they do that, but we'll be on post-game, Locked On Tigers postcast, and looking forward to that. Tarik Skubal needing to bring the Tigers a win. 4-3 road trip, though. So like I was talking myself off the ledge earlier in the program, at the end of the day, you did play above 500 on the road against 2 divisional opponents. But work cut out for us. Let's see what happens. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. And I'm excited to see some changes, because I think we're all on the same page. Andy Ibanez and Trey Sweeney, I just don't think they do enough to stay at the big league level. Would love to see a trade for Bo Bichette and a bona fide bullpen arm as well. I've seen people floating around Aroldis Chapman. I mean, he's been doing it for a long, long time, and it's been really, really good for a long, long time. So sure. But we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I think it's a potential tenure defining trade deadline for Scott Harris. This team is good. Best record in baseball. Thank you, Jake, for pointing that out, that this team is good. The team with the best record in baseball on June the 5th. But all right, have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. As always, it's a pleasure to be on the air. Check out Locked On Tigers. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, which will be tomorrow night after Tigers Cubs. See you.